Hi everyone, back in the bedroom this week because I have a pile of things I've yet to place in the cinema room and on shelves. It feels like a it feels like a good week. It was a bumper week. I have a lot to show you, a lot to discuss. This may run a bit long. Apologies in advance for those who just like to skim through. Thank you in advance for those who stick to the end, including the likes of Dawn of the Dead. And I want you to know that my friend Bruce has been giving you a listen, so I hope he enjoys the podcast. You can let us know, Bruce. Donna sometimes comments on the videos. It's quite nice, bringing people together. What was the latest news I just saw that I wanted to mention? Oh, Indicator are releasing a Wilder Prior set that has Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Another You in it, with the usual copious amounts of extras. And I commented to the person sharing this news that both of the first two films in that boxed, connected trilogy. I know it doesn't have Silver Streak in there, and I know they aren't connected in other ways aside from the stars. But both of those first two films have very special memories to me. And I believe Stir Crazy was the first VHS I bought when I managed to scrape together $4.99 for the gold trimmed forefront video edition. So that was, that was a great film, and I rewatched that again and again and again when I was young. When See No Evil, Hear No Evil started to be advertised, it was going to be released on September or October of 1989 here in the UK. I'm not reaching back into my memory all those years. I did look that up earlier. And it was the first 15 I was going to try and sneak into at the cinema, get a ticket and pretend I was pretty much an adult at that point. I was a few weeks shy of turning 14. I mean, that's it. It's not like I was 9 or 10. So I still went up to the ticket kiosk. It was like, one for See No Evil, Hear No Evil, please. And the guy just didn't even look at me. He was like, there you go. Thanks very much, mister. And I went in to enjoy the film at the cinema. So that's going to be an essential purchase, but it's just a reminder of the different reasons we have different attachments to movies, and why some, will like always stay with you forever, even if you look at them years later and think, I'm not sure that was as good as I remember. So yeah, that's a box set worth looking out for. Another box set worth looking out for, he segues smoothly, is the World Noir Volume 2 from Radius Films. So Black Gravel, Symphony for a Massacre, and Cruel Gun Story are in this set. I have Volume 1 as well. I've yet to watch films from either. It's, as I've said a few times, it's been difficult lately getting the scheduling. I'm still trying to go to the gym. I'm still trying to set up my running training. Next year I plan on doing the Edinburgh Marathon, the Total Warrior event, and the Great North Run. I'd like to do those as a healthy version of a midlife crisis and raise some money for probably Macmillan cancer. There's that. There's the new work shift pattern. I've done some overtime. I'm still getting used to things. It's very busy. And obviously, there's social time, normal time. My partner does like to see me occasionally. So if we sit down to watch a film together, it will probably just be, something that maybe isn't in the World Noir Volume 2 set. But it's important to make that time as well. And we try to do that. But it's so many plates spinning sometimes. I have to do my blog every day because my sort of mental schedule goes along with that for my mental health. I've mentioned this before. The way I log things, the way I review things, for me, I know it's not as serious as people with serious OCD, but it has an aspect of that to it. I have to log everything that I watch. I have to watch a certain amount of things, whether for the blog, for the podcast, etc. And every day on my blog, for on and off for about the past 12 to 13 years, there has been a review on my blog. Whether they've always been of the best quality or not, I'm not going to testify to that. But it's always been there, and that is, when my partner and I got together, I did explain there were things I could change, and there are things that I will always do, because I've got to the point where, right, I know that I kind of have to keep doing those things because my brain goes that way. So yeah, I mention that here now and again so that other people may, get that familiarity and know that they're not alone. I know some people will be like, oh, you just sit and watch movies or you write about movies. And yes, but others will know that there is a kind of compulsive part to that, whether it's the collecting, whether it's the writing. Speaking of which, on my blog today is the Alien Romulus review. I got to see that at the weekend. We mentioned it at the start of the podcast. And with the podcast, the two choices that were mentioned at the end of the episode have been changed. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Craig. It's not as if I was just about to start your original choices. They'll never watch this. So we're now watching two films I can't remember, but I think they have Alain Delon in them for obvious reasons. Let's get back to the shopping. I can't recall if I mentioned this week. I got the Second Sight copy of You're Next, and I also finally caved in and bought the physical disc of Abigail. I really enjoyed Abigail. I know some people didn't. I know some people didn't like the exposure of certain elements of it in the marketing, and then others were arguing the case that, first of all, it's not always the directors that have the final say on that, and secondly, it might have been harder to lure people in if there wasn't a certain reveal. I like it. I still think there was more in the third act that I didn't see coming straight away. And I've mentioned before, I'm notoriously bad at seeing twists and turns, but it made it all the more fun. I think the tropes that are used and reworked are great, and yeah, it's an absolute blast. I highly recommend it if you're a horror fan. Now we're going on to something very different here. Bear with me. There is some kind of connecting thread here. So, I think I mentioned a while ago there was a two-part documentary on Channel 4 in the UK called Saucy. It might have been The Secrets of, the British sex comedy, something like that. Well worth your time. Mentions a lot of these movies with Robin Asquith, the Confession series. I picked that up. I'm not apologising for having that on my shelf. There are some people who turn their nose up at them. I've said it many times before. I'll say it many times again. Sex films and horror movies have often, they've helped cinemas, they've helped studios, they've just helped bankroll so many other projects, as well as providing simple pleasure to people who've watched and enjoyed these. Now, I've not seen the Confessions film since I don't know when. I might have been a teen and only seen clips of the Confessions films. And I think you'll know what clips those will have been. But I'm going to revisit them. I'm going to rewatch them. I've got the Adventures series on a box set. They weren't great, but some of them were better than others. And again, just like in the context of the time and place where they came out into booming business, it's a fascinating little area to look into. Rare misses. I couldn't let that one go. I also got Guest House Paradiso. Now, when this was first released, I didn't like Guest House Paradiso, which was weird because I really like Adrian Edmondson and Rick Mayall. I was a fan of Bottom, big fan of the young ones. If you have the time and if you're a fan, look up The Dangerous Brothers. I believe the special is on YouTube. It's about 45-50 minutes. The Dangerous Brothers is just, I mean, it's them at their most anarchic and their zaniest, and it's brilliant. But Guest House Paradiso, I thought I'll get it. I'll have this selection of British comedy, and I have a lot of different examples of British comedy. You know, I've got the box sets that were released. They were going cheap in HMV for I think roughly the complete, you know, Two Ronnies, Morecambe and Wise. Those are wonderful. I showed my partner a Two Ronnies sketch the other day that I still love every time. It's the Mastermind sketch with the contestant who will always answer the preceding question. I mean, brilliant. Again, please look that up on YouTube if you've not seen it. I think you'll just be able to type in Two Ronnies Mastermind sketch. The Young Ones, as I mentioned, the comic strip presents Blackadder, and I guess I was growing up when, if I was allowed to stay up late and watch TV, we had, I think, Friday Night Live for a while. So we're trying to emulate stuff from America. They had Ben Elton as a host. They had these different acts. And you got Mail and Edmondson. You got Steve Coogan, I think, in a few episodes and coming up. Chris Barry was doing voices and skits. Harry Enfield. These people that came along, and it was the blooming alternative comedy scene. And those who didn't like it would say, you know, oh, is it alternative comedy because it's not funny? And sometimes that's true, but sometimes it's very, very funny and just really inverts and plays around with everything that come before, the history of comedy and the history of British comedy. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of see that in real time. But as a youngster, I didn't necessarily have the full knowledge of obviously the history that had come before until I started to grow up and see more and more of bits and bobs from the past. Guest House Paradiso holds up surprisingly well. I mean, it's very funny to watch Rick Mail run about in that little red spiky bikini set. There's a mini family nucleus sort of precursor to Shaun of the Dead, because you've got Bill Nye, Kate Ashfield, and you've got Simon Pegg in the cast. Vincent Cassel has a lot of fun going along with the ridiculousness. It's good, but I can see why it doesn't work in film form compared to Bottom or the shows. It's the pain is shown in really graphic detail and can be done better because it's a film. That works against the comedy of the pain. You know, it's very funny to watch Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson argue with one another, poke each other in the eye, a la Three Stooges, kick each other in the crotch area repeatedly, and hear, you know, bells clanging. That's very funny. It's not as funny if you're watching someone try and hook a video cassette they're trying to steal away from someone else and accidentally catch the hook on that person's nipple and watch the nipple being stretched and raised and stretched and raised when it looks really realistic and very sore. But I'm sure there are many fans of that. It's as I say, it actually holds up rather well. I like it more now, much more than I did when I was younger. But again, sometimes that's why I take a punt on things. Sometimes I want that little piece of cinema history to make it sound so snobby and ridiculous. Sometimes, especially with Indicator, the extras and stuff are really good. Because I was talking of the past though, and this is another wonderful segue that you'll think for. There's a load of books next, and I highly recommend. I've just started reading Scarred for Life Volume 1, which is fantastic. Not only is it fantastic, there are a couple of things here that are on YouTube that I've found already. The first thing they write about the Owl Service is on YouTube. You can find that there in its entirety. And Escape into Night, which I believe is the same story that Paper House was based on. I've still never watched Paper House. So that's on YouTube as well. I've read about it and then seen it now. Now, that's volume 1, but I have volume 2 and I just received volume 3. And this is what spurred me on to start reading these, because they're nice, the chunky volumes. I'm not necessarily going to take that into work and read it. I'm not necessarily going to be able to read that on a commute anywhere. I'm just sort of not wanting to be weighed down by it when I'm going out and about. So I'll start reading them at home. I've been doing really well with my reading again lately, and have about 3 or 4 on the go, which I like to do. The other one I'm reading just now, and I will mention here, is Cemetery Boys. And this is fantastic. I now live in Durham, and I went to a bookstall in the indoor market called Bookworm, WYRM at the end. And I just looking around at books and covers like this caught my eye. It's very much LGBTQ plus friendly bookstore, and a lot of the content is there for a wide variety of ages to find their reading matter, and plenty of fiction, some non-fiction to help people sort of process journeys that might be going on, or just figure out their place in the world, what options are available to them. So I was chatting to the owners of the bookstore, and I'm not going to name them here. I'm not going to accidentally misgender them, so I'll leave it at that. But they were really lovely, and obviously while I was there, I clicked it. All right, I get it. I get why all of the books seem to be of a theme. Yes, but I bought a few books anyway, and I encourage everyone to do the same. If you have somewhere near you, A, you're supporting a small business, B, we read books about all different characters, or we should, to see different viewpoints and have different tales or familiar tales told to us, while making use of characters that don't necessarily get to be placed front and center in those tales. So I started Cemetery Boys the other weekend. I'm on page 70. This is fantastic. Like, this is a really, really good read. It's about a young trans boy who cannot convince his family of of who he really is, really. And that's more difficult because family traditions allow different roles for boys and girls, and they're still trying to direct him one way, whereas he wants to go the other. It does also have obviously the supernatural tinge, and you can see spirits and help spirits, but that's mainly a male pursuit. So when the lead character gets involved in this, things get tricky, and it's trickier because he is someone that his family is still trying to view as a different gender they've no longer or never identified with. I highly recommend this. I'm being vague because, yeah, I'm trying not to get any terms incorrect or do anything wrong. So hopefully someone will check it out. And as I say, if you're near the Durham area, Bookworm is in the indoor market. It's highly recommended. As are the works of Anna Bogutskaya, who's written Unlikable Female Characters a while ago and has just released Feeding the Monster. I first heard Anna Bogutskaya when she was covering on one of the Kermode and Mail podcasts, I believe. And I didn't really like her style. I'm always slightly against people who use the word stan, for example, and she seemed a little bit giggly and giddy, and seemed to be focused on the more sillier aspects of whatever was being discussed that week. So I'm just like, I don't know about this person. But the more I've listened to her and seen her work around, You know, she's really good. She's a really good critic. She has really good conversations. She's involved in a lot of projects that work really well, and I kind of get it now. I mean, you're going to be a bit giddy and delighted to be covering the Kermode Mayo film podcast with someone, and if there is something that you can share your love of and be a bit silly about, then you know why wouldn't you on that kind of platform? I'm still against the use of the word stan, but that's besides the point. So Anna's, you know, someone who I just she kept appearing on things that I was listening to or reading, and eventually I was like, yeah, actually, she's really good. She knows what she's talking about. I'm not going to let that first impression sort of put me off her forever. It was yeah, it was just fantastic. I'm so glad I found her and her work. I've signed up for Patreon for some stuff that she does, and I've said a little message, please keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. I love it, and I said it in a way that wasn't totally patronizing. Anyway, but just like thanking her for her work, and I think it's a really good perspective that she usually provides on a lot of different things that she discusses. The Final Girls podcast is really good, and the current season has been on serial killers, and it's just been it's been great. There have been some great conversations there. And then from one well written woman to another, Rebecca Booth was promoting this. She is involved in this. It is about, as the title says, death in the 21st century, different aspects throughout, I think it's mainly throughout pop culture. And Rebecca has at least one essay in here. Support your friends and check them out if you can. That looks to be a good read. They all look to be good reads. I don't know when I'm going to find time for them. Don't know when I'm going to find time for the movies. I don't know when you're going to find time for this like 23-minute video. Who knows? We lost one subscriber the other day, I think because the podcast videos start popping up automatically. Maybe that's a bit too much for them. We might lose more today. We might gain some. I'll put my link below for my Alien Romulus review that's there today. I hope I've covered a lot of things that might have meant a little bit something to you. I think I've had a bit more to say this week, not necessarily about all of the films, because as usual, some of them will be discoveries for me, but hopefully about where our minds can go as we keep journeying through life, and what choices we can make, and what's out there for you to enjoy, for you to learn from, and for you to discover or rediscover, because there are things you might have dismissed that are worth an argo. Yeah, that seems like a good point to end on. That's it. Next week's video will probably be a lot shorter. I don't think I've any post due this week. We'll wait and see. Anyway, see ya.